bringing those together. And until we figure out how to bring those together by, you know, putting in, I love this service node thing I saw you guys putting in Spider Cloud, where I can actually start getting into some of that data. Being able to harness and be able to retrieve some of that data that's going on in the network and being able to provide it to venues and provide it to other mechanisms to be able to really combine those, I think that's key, and that has to be part of our future. The network ends up just really becoming the transport layer to be able to provide that joining of these worlds that's been so disjointed since the Internet and Internet of Things and all this stuff happened. We're still pretty disjointed, and I'm looking forward to seeing it continue to become more integrated.
Great. Patrick?
I would say the market has continued to grow, in short, because if you look at all the analyst reports, and the projection is the data demands is going to be like going after 30–40% annually in the next 5 to 10 years. I just read a report somewhere the other day. By 2019, which is 5 years from now, the global DAS market is grown to $8 billion, and the U.S. being probably around 40% of the market share for that. So this is tremendous. It's good news for everybody here. And I think what I see the future of the growth really is in two folds. The applications, and if you look at the different vertical segments, we're talking about it. The last 5 or 7 years, people really have been focusing on some very large public venues, the 50,000, 100,000 those venues, the airports. And I think the demand and the market is shifting for the segments. You're getting into the healthcare, hospitality, higher education, high rises. Some call it 4 H's. So these are the different segments of people that are focusing on. If you look at the report, people, they say there are hundreds of billions of square feet of those uncovered in those vertical segments. And I think if these are the things needed, with the new technology, the data demands and video demands will continue to drive the DAS growth. And the second thing is on the vendor side. I think traditionally, all the things and people they're saying small cells are very easy to deploy. Yes. And DAS becomes more complicated because a lot of different process and phases is manually. Whether you're connecting the cables between modules, you do the commissioning, doing the optimization, like the lady was talking about from CSS, and it's all true. But I think in the future, the next generation of DAS, you're building the intelligence, make it as simple, the simplicity, I think that's really the key word. Because at the end of the day, you want to be able to do similar to how you dynamically to shift the capacity. And I have a 10-story building. I only want 2 carriers in the basement. Maybe it's 10 carriers in the break room, your executive floor. And how do you do that? And certain things new, the digital and the next generation of the DAS products will address those kind of needs. And I think the key thing, and I think the winner for the whole DAS, if you're talking about the landscape, is you want to make the products simple enough to deploy and scalable enough to grow into different technologies and frequencies, and flexible enough to change.
Great. Thank you, Patrick. So we have a little bit of time left for audience questions. We have one here from, wait for the mic. Just say your name and your affiliation. And your
My name is Rod Randall. I'm from Cirrus Capital. Historically, the cost of base stations since the beginning in the 80s of cellular were very expensive, $100,000 or something like that for even a sector when I started my career at Bell Laboratories. But over time, the concept, the technology behind base stations has become cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. Back when it was hugely expensive, that justified DAS systems. And in fact, it was one of the attractions of Wi-Fi at the beginning. It was very cheap. But as now we move into LTE with advanced silicon coming in at very low cost, where the newest all 4G, all LTE advanced indoor systems are as cheap as managed Wi-Fi. If you could get LTE with all of the quality of service and all of the dynamic ability to allocate capacity and coverage at the cost of Wi-Fi, why would you ever use DAS or Wi-Fi?
Well, I'll take that on. I don't think it's why would you ever not use all of them. And I'm just going to sit there and say that I've been at locations where you've got really strong LTE networks. We built a really strong DAS network, for example, at Chicago Bears Stadium. 80,000 subscribers can go inside there and use their cellular. You get a lot of people trying to go watch video. It's a different game. And if you're sitting there and you're thinking you're dealing with the same kind of use that you're dealing with today, where people are trying to pick up phones and make phone calls, not trying to do video calls, not trying to do all the other stuff, then you're living yesterday, right? Today and tomorrow, it's more and more and more data. There's nothing showing that LTE, and you can talk to any of the carriers, that LTE has enough capacity for what's happening even in 5 years from now, or even 2 years from now. We need all the capabilities, and what's great is if you use all of them and you use them appropriately, like what we're doing at the Chicago Bears Stadium. I like to bring it up. You have a DAS network, again, built for 80,000 subscribers. We have Wi-Fi there too, and the way Chicago Bears decided that they wanted to set this up is they say, okay, we're going to have everybody use DAS, and we're going to put Wi-Fi in there for $1.95 for during the game, and they sit there and they tell people about it, and they go, hey, if you want to be able to stream all of your movies or all of your other football games that are going on when you're sitting down inside and watching the Chicago Bears game, pay $1.95 and you can stream them all, and we're going to make sure you have a great experience. 20 megabits connection so that you can sit there and stream all of your other games. A great solution for bringing the both together inside that venue. And I think that that's the key, is you've got to sit there and recognize the power of each of the different things. LTE is not enough. DAS isn't enough, Wi-Fi is not enough, we need more than that. We're going to continually trying to find more than that. And by being able to make it all seamless and making smart things like ANDSF, so you make smart decisions of when to go, where to push capacity when it's needed, I think you're going to be a lot better off. 80% of the traffic right now is over Wi-Fi. More devices have Wi-Fi than have cellular coverage. That's another reason why Wi-Fi has to stick around. It is cheaper. I mean, but those are besides the point. I'm more about everything, everywhere.
Right, and I think I absolutely agree with what Derek was talking about. The other thing I want to add to it, and then we're just about, we're talking about Wi-Fi, and also I think for DAS piece, and to a certain thing, is a lot of it is still the hardware limitation on the small cell. And if you wanted to cover that stadium, what Derek was talking about, Chicago Bears Stadium, if you want to cover truly a neutral host, including everybody, including the 2G, including the public safety, you can't necessarily just have a small cell solution for that. Because also, well, you could, but I mean, it's not necessarily cost effective. You're talking about, I want 150 nodes. So each node locations, you need to have multiple boxes. And at the end of the day, it's a trade-off. Is it, do you really need it? Do you need multiple boxes per node location? And the things what we do, a lot of times, every year after year for larger stadiums, and every year, we need to go back to the stadium where it deployed previously to upgrade. A lot of times is adding more capacity, adding new sectors. And one of the things I think at DAS, I'm biased, the advantage that you look at this is because of single cell simulcast. You have the base station, centralized the base station. You can distribute the signals in multiple sources, multiple antennas. Using this room, like one sector, for instance, you probably have 4 or 5 antennas. You can choose the antennas at the sector edges as a directional antenna to self-contain the RF energies without leaking the signals to the neighbor sectors.
Great. I'm going to go ahead and cut it off there. Please join me in thanking the panelists for awesome